Good evening, producer Susan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jersey Joe. How are you?
Oh, I'm fighting a cold. I may cough and sneeze a little bit, but we'll try to get through the next 30 minutes. Had a couple of personal things. By the way, I'd done some consulting work for a company down in the Philadelphia area called Lormar, and I've got a bunch of listeners down there. They asked me to give them a shout out. So to all those guys from Lormar who are listening, you got your shout out. All right, how's that? All
And
right.
I understand that you work one of them as a Penn State fan.
One of them is I think he's got a nephew goes there. He's got a lot. He was always wearing a Penn State shirt or a pullover, one of those with a 6-inch zipper in front. Big Penn State fan. Big Penn State fan. Anyway, um, anyway, for the first time listeners, situation with Jerzee Joe. The focus of the show is news and perspective you won't hear on TV. Um, so you may hear some news stories, but you'll only hear half the story and other stuff. I guarantee you haven't heard about some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about. And I had a question from a listener, which was, where do I get my material from? Well, it's a great question. Um, I follow a couple of websites. One is a science, and one is actually a Facebook site called Science and Technology. As I've mentioned, I think in one of my first podcasts, I'm also a member of Mensa, and I get a weekly email blast from Mensa with interesting stuff happening around the world. And I also get a monthly magazine, Mensa magazine. And I do watch three newscasts a day. I watch two in the morning and one in the evening. So I think I'm fairly well informed. And by what's interesting, in the morning, I'll watch 30 minutes of news on one station, and then I'll watch 30 minutes of news on the other station. And sometimes there's dramatic differences between what's reported or how it's reported. So that's where I get a lot of my stuff. Plus, I've got a bunch of people send me stuff. It's stuff I find interesting. I hope you find it interesting. Producer Sue, have you found some of the stuff I talk about interesting, educational?
Absolutely, all of it.
All right, great. All right, quote of the day. Do you know who Thomas Sowell is?
I do not.
He's an author, an economist. He's a black man. He's written a couple of books. And our quote of the day will be from economist Thomas Sowell on the use of the word racism. I'm going to start a new segment this week called The Stupidest Thing I've Heard All Week. And to kick off this new segment, we will have a quote by actress Jane Fonda, who was this week on the Kelly Clarkson Show, was linking climate change to racism. Building on Fonda's ridiculous quote, we'll review quotes by Senator Chuck Schumer and California Representative Adam Schiff on the shooting of the Asian Americans in California last week, they were quick to come out and talk about it being bigotry and examples of Asian hate before they knew that the shooter was an Asian himself. So we'll talk about how quick politicians are to remember the old "never let a crisis go to waste." These
Mhm.
guys just couldn't wait to paint this as an incident of white supremacy, white on Asian hate. Um, Came across an interesting statistic in our Health Minute. We'll discuss data showing that the COVID vaccines had little, if any, impact on the COVID mortality rate over the past 2.5 years. I was pretty much blown away by the fact that pre-COVID vaccine, during the COVID vaccine, and post-COVID vaccine, that the monthly COVID death rates did not change much, if any.
Mhm.
In our Science Minute, we'll talk about how many feet of lithium used in lithium-ion batteries can be made from a single 11-pound ingot of lithium. By the way, lithium is a metal a lot like aluminum, except it's a lot softer. And we'll talk about how many feet of lithium film you get out of a single 11-pound ingot of lithium metal. We'll talk about George Santos, who I think is a disgrace and should resign. But we'll talk about how differently the media and Democratic politicians treat lies by Republicans, and how they versus how they treat lies told by members of their own party. So we'll just a little compare and contrast there. We'll talk about what happened in New York City the other day when the city tried to move a couple of hundred single illegal male immigrants from a private hotel room to barrack-style housing to free up those hotel rooms for immigrant families with children. Do you know who Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick was?
I do not.
He was the guy. He was the Capitol Police Officer who died the day after the January 6th riot.
Okay.
and he died, and coroner ruled his death natural causes. Now, one of the guys this week did spray him in the face with pepper spray, and a lot of people are trying to say, well, yeah, that being sprayed in the face caused his stroke. And we'll talk about manner of death versus cause of death on death certificates. And have you heard of the JR-15 rifle?
No.
Well, you know what an AR-15 rifle is, right?
Yes.
Well, JR stands for junior. We'll talk about
Junior.
the political uproar over a company that's marketing a JR-15 rifle. And our taxpayer relief shot comes from Phoenix, where a thug tries to man a guy putting gas in his car at a gas station. Didn't turn out well for the guy, for the armed robber. All right. Anyway, our quote of the day, Thomas Sowell, who again is a Black author. And here's his quote on the word racism. The word racism is like ketchup. It can be put on practically anything. And demanding evidence that something is racist makes you a racist. And how many times have we seen that where you challenge somebody, well, prove that was racist. By the way, somebody said that those 5 Black officers who killed a young Black man in Memphis last week, that was based on racism. I find that hard to swallow, but, I won't go there. Anyway, the stupidest thing I've heard all week. Here is Jane Fonda on the Kelly Clarkson show. And just listen to what she says, and you tell me if you've heard anything this stupid. Here we go.
You can take anything, sexism, racism, misogyny, homophobia, whatever, the war. And if you really get into it and study it and learn about it and the history of it, and everything's connected. There'd be no climate crisis if it wasn't for racism.
What does one have to do with the other?
There would be no climate crisis if it wasn't for racism. Let me just back that up and play that one more time. I couldn't believe it the first time I heard her say it.
If you really get into it and study it and learn about it and the history of it, and everything's connected. There'd be no climate crisis if it wasn't for racism.
Now, have you heard anything stupider than that all week?
Yeah, I'm still scratching my head wanting to know, what does one have to do with the other?
Well, obviously nothing, but that's why it's my new segment, the stupidest thing I heard all week. All right, so building on Jane, let's talk about, if I can find it, what did I do with it here? Right. So, not to be outdone, Senator Chuck Schumer and Representative Adam Schiff. Schumer's from New York, Schiff's from California. Basically, in the hold my beer and watch this moment. Following the shootings at the Asian American Dance Hall in Monterey Park, California, that morning, Chuck Schumer came out, tweeted, "We must stand up to bigotry and hate whenever they rear their ugly heads, and we must keep working to stop gun violence." Not to be outdone, Representative Adam Schiff said Saturday's shooting was a horrific example of needless gun violence with bigotry towards Asian American Pacific Islanders as a possible motive. Now, as we all know, oh, by the way, meanwhile, many Twitter users condemn the violence, punctuating their tweets with "Stop Asian Hate." Now, since they rushed to get those comments and tweets out, we all know that the shooter was himself Asian. So any reaction to these guys condemning bigotry and Asian hate when the shooter himself was Asian?
They should have had the facts before they tweeted to social media.
No, but clearly they didn't. All right. You ready to move on? Talk about COVID fatality rates?
Yes.
All right. I'm looking at a chart, and hopefully, producer Susan, you can post this on the website. And this comes from the Physicians for Information and Physicians for Informed Consent.org. And it's /COVID-19 vaccine risk statement. And it's a graph of cumulative COVID deaths by month since the vaccine program began. And it's basically a straight 45-degree line, going up left to right, 45 degrees. Few little bumps and seasonal stuff, but basically the death rate before the vaccine rollout, the death rate during the vaccine rollout, and the COVID death rate per month after the vaccine rollout stayed the same. It was it was, roughly, 30,000 per month. And it made no difference whether there was a vaccine, you were getting the vaccine, or you already had the vaccine, had no impact. And I believe a couple of weeks ago, we talked about the COVID case mortality rate by age group, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of those, like the up to 19-year-old, you had to go out to like 4 decimal, like 99.9962, something like that. And the entire US, it's no more than 0.42, less than 0.5%, with the vast majority of those being in the over 70 category. So, yeah, you have to wonder, was all the money, lockdowns, closing of schools, and this race to vaccinate everybody really necessary when apparently the vaccines had zero impact on COVID death rate? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I know personally our governor, it was catastrophic to close down the state, not once, but twice.
Yeah. So it's just interesting when, again, hindsight's 2020, but these are some pretty shocking statistics when you look at the fact that the COVID vaccine had literally zero impact on the monthly death rate from COVID. So hopefully we can get that graph up on the website.
Yep.
All right. Now, so here's a question. In a standard car battery, you've got plates. You've got lead and copper plates, separated with an acid solution. But in a lithium battery, you actually take lithium foil, like aluminum foil, and you wrap it around, other things, and it's a 6-inch wide foil. So if I gave you an 11-pound ingot of lithium, and to put that in perspective, an 11-pound ingot of lithium is about the size of a roll of paper towels. It's about 15 inches long and 6 inches in diameter. How many feet of 6-inch wide lithium foil do you think you could get from a single 11-pound ingot of lithium?
100? I have no idea.
A little bigger. Go a little bigger.
200?
Bigger.
500.
Bigger.
Are we talking exponentially bigger?
Exponentially bigger.
1,000?
Bigger.
10,000.
You went just a little bit too much. You would get 1.25 miles of lithium foil, which is roughly 7,000 feet, from a single 11-pound ingot of lithium, about the size of a roll of paper towels. That's how much they stretch it out, and the foil becomes the anode in a lithium-ion battery. So you get 1.25 miles of lithium foil from a single lithium ingot the size of a roll of paper towels. So there's your little science minute for today. All right, want to move on to now? I know you don't live in New York, New Jersey area, but you've heard of George Santos, I assume.
Oh yeah.
Now the guy's a slug. I mean, he's lied about everything. He deceived the voters. It looks like he may have violated some campaign finance laws. But immediately, even before this stuff came out, the Democrats were saying he needs to resign, and the media, he needs to resign. Well, my question is, when we look at other politicians who have blatantly lied about things, did you ever remember when Elizabeth Warren claimed that she was 25% Cherokee Indian?
Yeah.
When it came out that she wasn't, did you ever hear anybody asking for her to resign?
No.
Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, at one point, he claimed that he served in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. That turned out to be a lie. You ever hear anybody calling for Richard Blumenthal to resign?
No.
All right. Let's go on to Joseph Robinette Biden. Biden claimed on multiple occasions that he used to drive an 18-wheeler. In fact, that was checked by PolitiFact. He never drove an 18-wheeler. In fact, he only rode in one once 50 years ago. Biden claimed on multiple occasions that he had spoken to the inventor of insulin. Well, the inventor of insulin died 2 years before Biden was born. Biden claimed that he had a house burned down with his wife in it, and said almost lost a couple of firefighters. In fact, in 2005, there was a kitchen fire that only affected the kitchen. The guys came and they put it out. There were no injuries. The house didn't burn down. It was just your typical kitchen fire. But he claimed that his house almost burned down with his wife in it and almost lost a couple of firefighters. Is that just a wee bit of an exaggeration?
A little bit.
A little bit. He claimed that he was raised in the, quote, the Puerto Rican community of Delaware. No evidence of this. Only 0.39% of the state's population of Puerto Rican. Biden said he remembered spending time and going to the Tree of Life synagogue, which was out in Pittsburgh after the shooting, wasn't it? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Never went there, yet he claimed he went there and spoke to people there. He claimed he served as a liaison to Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir during the Six-Day War. Biden wasn't in government service. He was in law school during the war, and Golda Meir wasn't even prime minister during the Six-Day War. So, talk about a blatant lie. She wasn't the prime minister during the Six-Day War, and he was in law school, not in government service during that war. Biden claimed his first job offer came from Boise Cascade and Idaho Lumber Company. That company said they have no record of Biden's application or of having him working for the company. Biden claimed that the first time he got arrested was at a civil rights protest. There's no evidence that Biden has ever been arrested, and he was not a civil rights activist. Biden claimed he had a conversation with an Amtrak conductor in 2012 or 13 about traveling over 1 million miles on Air Force Two. The conductor he supposedly had that conversation with retired in 1993 and passed away in 2014. Biden didn't reach 1 million miles on Air Force Two until a year after the guy died. So you think that was a bit of an exaggeration? That he was talking to Dan? All right. Biden claimed he was appointed to the U.S. Naval Academy in Annapolis in 1965. Of course, to get into any of the military academies, you have to be nominated, by a senator or a congressman. There is no record of Biden being nominated to the Naval Academy. Biden claimed oil refinery pollution is the reason I am so damn many other people I grew up with have cancer. Biden doesn't have cancer. He had skin cancer, but that was because of sun exposure, not pollution. So he's claiming he got skin cancer from oil refinery pollution. No connection. Biden frequently claimed to have been a full professor at the University of Pennsylvania after being VP. Biden never taught even a single class. So can you be a full professor and not teach a class?
I don't know. At a research institution, maybe.
Well, he was never a full professor and never taught a class. He claimed his grandfather was a coal miner, something he's been saying for decades. He wasn't. Biden said after he was elected VP, he awarded his uncle Frank the Purple Heart. Biden's uncle, the one he referenced, was not a Purple Heart recipient, and the guy died in 1999, and Biden wasn't elected VP until 2008. So here you have a guy. So here Biden is saying that he personally awarded his deceased uncle Frank with a Purple Heart. His uncle Frank never got a Purple Heart. He died in 1999. 9 years before Biden became VP. So he was in no position to award his uncle, who never got a Purple Heart, the Purple Heart 8 years before he died. Biden claimed he hit a baseball 360 feet off the wall at the second congressional baseball game. Biden actually went 0 for 2. He was at bat twice, struck out twice. So no, he didn't hit a ball 368 feet and bounce it off the wall. Biden claimed his grandfather was an All-American football player at Santa Clara County. Santa Clara NCAA records show no evidence of Biden's grandfather being an All-American. Biden claimed he could have been an All-American football player. Biden only played his freshman football team for part of one semester, period. That was it. So you don't get to be on the All-American team playing a small part of your freshman semester. Biden claimed he almost walked onto an NFL team and thought he could make it in the pros. That's pretty laughable for anybody. Biden claimed he was shot out overseas, something he lied about earlier in 2007. It never happened. Biden said when he was county council member, a woman once asked him to remove a dead dog from her lawn, but instead of removing it, Biden claimed he left it on her doorstep. when he repeated the same story a year earlier, he switched it around and said he did remove it. Anyway, the list goes, there's another 6 or 7 lies here that go on and on and on. And there's audio clips of him. But my question is, did you ever hear anybody, and these are something that didn't come out last week or last month. These things have been floating around out there even when he was vice president. Did you ever hear anybody in the media or any of his fellow Democrats say that he should step down either as a senator or as vice president?
I mean, yeah, actually, I mean, people have been calling for him to step down because of his, whether they want to call it lies or dementia or.
Well, dementia is one thing, but I'm talking, let's go back to when he was a VP. And yes, Republicans are always going to call, but I'm talking about Democrats.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I can't say of a Democrat off the top of my head.
And yes, and given Biden's failing mental state, I think if you're not thinking he should step down, you probably don't have a good grasp of his current mental condition. But I'm going back 8 years when he was VP, or going back 10 years when he was still a senator. These lies were well known back then, and nobody in the Democrat Party ever suggested that he should step down or resign because of this list of lies as long as your arm. And again, I'm not defending George Santos. Like, the guy's a scumbag. He ought to step down. He ought to resign. But my point is, we have a double standards. What I would like to see in politics is consistency. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And if you're going to say that George Santos should step down because of his outrageous lies, then I'd like to see you say that about Joe Biden, because his lies are pretty close to Santos in terms of absolute complete fairy tales. These aren't exaggerations, they're absolute complete fairy tales. All right. New York City. By the way, how much time we got?
You're 22 minutes in.
All right, got 8 minutes left. All right. New York City, when they began to get a bunch of immigrants from Texas, they put them up in a hotel the city had taken over. And they filled that hotel up pretty quick because they had no place else to put them. But in the meantime, the past 3 or 4 weeks, they've been working on creating a barracks type facility out in Brooklyn on one of the docks out there, where they put a big facility up, and they put cots, and they've got these shower trailers where you get these trailers where there's 4, 5, 6 showers in one trailer. They got a bunch of shower trailers. They've got a kitchen there. So they told all these single guys, hey, we need to move you to the barracks facility out in the Brooklyn pier, because we need these hotel rooms for immigrant families with small children. Because each hotel room obviously has a private shower. It's got a TV. It even has a little mini fridge where they used to put the little liquor. Well, guess what? These single male illegal immigrants are saying, hell no, we like it here. We're not leaving. Now, these are guys, these are guys that supposedly walked for months through the jungle, sleeping out in the open, walked hundreds of miles on foot, and now they're saying, screw it, we like these rooms, we're not giving them up. So it just goes to show you, when you give somebody something and then you try to take it away from them. So it's an interesting dilemma where the mayor of New York City now, and these guys are protesting, they're sleeping on the sidewalk, they've got activists with them. So are you kidding? A barracks and community showers? We don't have our own hotel room? No, we're not going to go for that. So it's almost comical how they're protesting now that, once they've had this private hotel room with a refrigerator, now they're not going to be happy with group showers and barrack style sleeping. Any thoughts on
Yeah, and you said hundreds of miles. I bet some of them walk thousands of miles.
That's right. And now they're outraged that they're going to be asked to sleep in a nice heated shelter.
Yeah.
But they're gonna share that,
that they don't have to pay for.
That they don't have to pay. Oh, and there's a kitchen there. They're going to get fed 3 meals a day.
3 meals a day, and shelter and safety.
flush toilets flush toilet, running water. But no. Once we've had a taste of the hotel room, we're not going to go back for that. All right. Let's move on to Officer Brian Sicknick, who died the day after the January 6th riot. Now, there are people said, well, and the one of the protesters did, in fact, spray this guy in the face with pepper spray. And there are people said, oh, he should have been charged with murder. He killed him. Well, the coroner found that he died of a stroke, natural causes. And let's talk about the difference between cause of death and manner of death. Did you know that on the death certificate, there's a cause of death and a manner of death?
Yes.
All right. And let's give an example. So in the case of a drowning, if somebody drowns, the cause of death is drowning. But the manner of death can be one of four things. It can be accidental. In other words, you fell out of your canoe in the middle of a lake. That's an accidental drowning. Your drowning could be suicide. You jumped off a 300 high foot. You jumped off the George Washington Bridge into the Hudson River. You drowned, but it was a suicide. You can now, somebody ties cinder blocks to your feet and drops you off the side of a boat. The cause of death is drowning, but the manner of death is homicide. And finally, there's undetermined. So most people don't realize that cause of death and manner of death are two separate categories. And again, I just gave the example of drowning. It can be accidental, suicide, homicide, or undetermined. The people who are calling for this guy said he should have been given life in prison for pepper spraying. He committed an aggravated assault. He was charged with aggravated assault, convicted of aggravated assault, and given 7 years. But people saying he should have been charged with manslaughter and given 20 years to life, just have no comprehension or apparently no grasp of what actually happened. Were you aware of that whole thing?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah. Officer Brian Sicknick, Sicknick, Brian Sicknick. All right. The political uproar over JR-15 rifle. Earlier this week, a gun manufacturer came out. Now, we all know what an AR-15 rifle is, right?
Yep.
Black rifle. It's got an adjustable buttstock. Now,
yep.
If you're a father and you want to teach your 13-year-old son or daughter how to shoot a rifle, up until now, you've had to give them a standard gun that's sized for adults. It's got a wooden stock, and you give this wooden stock rifle to your 13-year-old son or daughter, and it's way too big and awkward for them, and they have a hard time shooting it. So this manufacturer came and said, what if we made a 22 rifle, just not an AR-15, just a little 22, but we make it AR-15 style. And one of the features of an AR-15 is the fact that the buttstock can click in and out. I think it's got 4 or 5 different stops. You can push it all the way in or all the way out to adjust for different body sizes. And this way, if you got a 13-year-old, you buy them this little 22 rifle, you push the buttstock all the way in, and it will fit them comfortably. And as they grow, become 14, 15, 16, you can keep extending the buttstock and the rifle will grow with them. Well, politicians are in uproar. They're literally calling for congressional uproar over the, quote, the marketing of, quote, an assault rifle to young children. Now, first of all, young children can't buy guns. So you really can't market a rifle to a 13-year-old, can you?
No, because like you said, they can't go out and buy one.
Right.
The best they could do is say, hey, Daddy, will you buy this for me?
It's kind of like the Red Ryder, Daddy, I want a Red Ryder BB gun for Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, so the JR-15, by the way, is no more deadly, no different than any 22 rifle, the father's been, training their kids with, for the past 50 years. It's just another 22 rifle, except this one is black, it's made out of plastic, and it looks scary. So that's the latest political uproar. All right. You want to move on to taxpayer relief shot?
Sure thing.
All right. This one comes to us from Indianapolis, where a guy's pumping gas. And by the way, the reason we call them taxpayer relief shots is that, if you arrest a thug, first comes the trial, and none of these thugs have enough money for their own lawyer. So you have to do a court-appointed attorney who's going to bill the court $300 an hour. And then there might be appeal. So, the trial alone is going to cost the state $20,000. And then if you convict the thug and he goes to jail, it's $80,000 a year. So you put the thug in jail for 10 years. That's $800,000 taxpayer money on top of the cost of the trial. So if the trial was $200,000 and the jail was $800,000, it's $1 million to put a guy in jail for 10 years. So we call it a taxpayer relief shot because when a good guy or a good woman shoots and kills a thug, you save the taxpayers all that money. And here's how the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, Florida feels about it.
If somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully you'll save taxpayers money.
All right. And a few counties over, we have another sheriff, Grady Judd, and here's how Grady Judd feels about it.
I would highly suggest that if a looter breaks into your home, comes into your home while you're there to steal stuff, that you take your gun and you shoot him. You shoot him so that he looks like grated cheese.
All right, so there you got two sheriffs basically. So it's not just me. You got a couple of sheriffs in Florida saying, "Yeah, we prefer that you shoot the bad guys." So here comes the clip of this guy pumping gas in Florida in Indianapolis.
Turned deadly on Indy's near northwest side after police say a homeowner killed an intruder identified as 64-year-old Steve Shepard Jr. early this morning.
That's right. Fox 59's Jerzee Wells spoke with that homeowner today who tried to explain exactly what happened there. Jesse?
The sidewalk outside.
Well, actually, I screwed up. I screwed up. That is the same one from last week. Don't ask me how I screwed that one up, but I did. I wonder if I have time to find it.
Oh, you got about 5 minutes here.
That I just realized I must have copied the wrong. Okay, hang on. I think I can find it here. Here we go. Here we go. Gas station. Got it. It's in Phoenix, actually. And there's probably going to be a commercial here that Yep, there's a little commercial we have to wade through.
So Joe, did you get sick from all this crazy?
Here it comes.
weather?
Here it comes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What was the question?
I was gonna say, you said you had a cold. Is it from all this crazy weather? 50 degrees one day, 20 degrees the next day?
You know, I think it might have been. I was out shooting trap clay birds and got pretty freaking cold out there.
Didn't
Anyway.
your mother tell you to wear a hat?
Yeah, she did. All right, so here we go. This is from Phoenix.
And then I saw that guy who they were having some conversation. He went on the floor.
The head store clerk at the Sinclair gas station on 12th and Highland, recalling the terrifying moment he witnessed an armed robbery turned shooting.
I went to the door and saw that happening. I called 911.
According to Phoenix police, 24-year-old Aaron Frazier Jr. approached a man pumping gas. Police say Frazier pulled a gun in an attempt to rob the man. The man, whose identity has not been released, then fired several shots, killing Frazier.
Shouldn't have happened, but things happen.
The store clerk telling me he recognized the man being robbed, describing him as kind and polite.
He's a regular customer. He don't bother nobody. He come to the pump, fills gas, drives off. That's it.
Though he says the situation is sad, he's thankful the robber was stopped.
I mean, something could have been really bad and ugly.
But now he's worried for the future of the store and their safety.
This is the first time something like this happened here. Never ever. Pretty good. I mean, it's mainly a neighborhood. All family people staying here. And, in stores, some things always happen, but not to that magnitude.
Others who pump gas here say the same.
It's not what I expected. I do know that, there is some violent crime around here. I just haven't really, experienced it firsthand or been, I guess, this close to it.
Phoenix police say they have not arrested the man who fired those shots, but they are investigating this case further. We'll let you know if anything changes. Reporting live tonight in Phoenix, I'm Sarah Robinson.
So a guy pumping gas, carrying a legal concealed weapon, shoots an armed robber who tried to rob him at gunpoint. You think they're going to file charges against him?
I hope not. Sounds justified.
I'm not justified. All right. Well, that's all I got unless you want to add anything.
Nope. It's the end of January and I'm a little disappointed we haven't had more snow this season.
We actually, New York City has had, we had a little dusting the other day here in New Jersey. New York City has had literally zero. So they've gone 368 days without a flake of snow. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. As usual, if you want to see any of the stuff, go to the Jerzee Joe website. That's JER as in Roger, ZEE, JerzeeJoe.com. email me at joe@jerziejoe.com if you got any questions or you want me to send you any of the show materials. And producer Susan will have the podcast up. You can listen to it on Spotify or any of the Apple podcast platforms. And unless you got something else, producer Sue, talk to you next week.
Yep. I hope you're feeling better.
I certainly hope so. All right, take care. Bye-bye.